Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday to you. It is another Wednesday. It is another day to magnify an amazing HR voice. My name is Julie Turney, and I am your host. I'm so excited for today. First things first, have you noticed anything different about my screen? Take a look. So, normally you can't see the HR properly in the back, number one, and everything looks really, really close. But thank you to my amazing YouTube StreamYard mentor on YouTube. As you know, guys, I learn everything on YouTube. Desiree Martinez, she's absolutely fantastic. And I figured out how to get my screen in such a way that I can see myself clearly and it doesn't look all jumbled up. So how are you doing today, everyone? First things first, let me know where you're chiming in from. Where are you? How you're feeling? Have you slept well? Have you eaten well over the last week? Well, today we're going to be talking about why those things are important as you look to own your career and own your life. And to have this conversation with me today is my dear friend, Andy Storch. Woo! Andy, how are you doing?
Hey, Julie, I am excited to be here. I'm feeling good and ready to go. Thanks so much for having me on. I know you're popular. This show fills up. You got a lot of great guests coming through. I see all the names every week on LinkedIn and I'm like, wow, she gets some really great HR voices on there. So I was flattered when you asked me to join.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. I can see everyone starting to chime in and tell us where they're joining us from. It's always a pleasure to learn from you, to have conversations with you. I've been a huge fan of yours for a very long time, following you on LinkedIn. And so I'm so happy and honored that you agreed to join me today. And I know you're very busy. And I also know you have to measure and monitor your time very carefully. So I am really appreciative. We're busy people as HR pros, aren't we?
We always have a lot of stuff going on, right? And it's funny when people say like, well, I know you're busy. I appreciate you taking your time. We're all busy, aren't we? I mean, we all fill our time with things. And, one of the lessons that we, jumping in is that we're all busy, but it really comes down to when it comes to getting things done, how you prioritize and spend your time. We all get to choose how we spend our time, right? Do we do something like this? Do we do something else? And I'm absolutely ecstatic to be choosing to spend my time with you here today and all the people joining us. See Rayanne, Gail, Eddie. Welcome, everybody.
Eddie's from Nebraska. Hi, Nebraska. Welcome. Oh, this is awesome. Well, we're going to have a great conversation. I'm going to do what I do best, which is I'm going to jump off the screen. I'm going to give you the opportunity to tell everyone a little bit about you, and then we'll come back and start our conversation.
Sure. Yeah. Happy to do that. Thank you, Julie. And, I don't know how much you want to know or people want to know. I don't want this to be too long. I come from originally Orlando, Florida, where I live now, born and raised, the Sunshine State, the city beautiful. Went to undergrad at the University of Florida. And then I moved to California with my wife, Courtney, who I met in college, and tried my hand at entrepreneurship with some different startups that didn't work out. Got into the corporate world and insurance. I was more in marketing and product management. Eventually got an MBA and got into consulting back in 2011. So about 10 years ago, got into consulting. And that's where I really started to learn about the world of HR and specifically talent development, learning and development, because I was creating and running custom business simulations for companies and clients all over the world. And the client that I was most commonly working with was someone from learning and development or talent development who usually sat within HR, who was kind of overseeing the rollout of a training program for a company. And that's where I really started learning about the needs and wants of people in HR and learning and development. And as my career progressed, I was still kind of paying attention to everything. I was working in consulting, and I had a chance to work with executives and managers at companies all over the world. I travel over, Europe, Asia, South America, Australia, And I learned a ton, and I got to see what helped make leaders and executives and companies successful. And I also saw a lot of people who were sort of kind of drifting in their career, operating in reaction mode. And I was, putting that in my head for a later date to kind of think, how can I help some of these people later on? Eventually, I went out on my own. Well, in between, I joined a really fantastic firm called Advantage Performance Group as an independent consultant. And I started my first podcast, actually my second podcast, what am I saying, in 2018, called The Talent Development Hot Seat, really to focus in on corporate talent development, to learn everything I can, build my network, connect with more people in that space. And that's where I started to learn even more about the HR world, because as you can tell, if you're listening to my story, I come as an outsider to HR. I've never worked as an HR practitioner or professional in corporate like you, Julie, or many of the people who are watching or listening. Instead, I come at it from a consultant point of view, working with a lot of HR professionals, and started interviewing a lot of people in talent development, and ended up building up that show. And it eventually turned into a conference, which I hosted in January 2020, called the Talent Development Think Tank with my friend Bennett Phillips. It was a big hit. We had such great speakers as Josh Burson, Liz Weissman, Michael Bungay-Stanier, were all on the stage of our conference, and it was a big hit. Everything was going really well. We had a lot of clients who were excited to work with us. And then obviously COVID hit in March of 2020. And at the time, my entire business was selling and running in-person training programs. And so obviously that took a big hit. Everything got shut down, everything got canceled. And 2020 was a big year of pivoting for me. So in that time, I was already working on my book, which I published later in the year. And I also pivoted to doing a lot of virtual things. I hosted the Talent Development Virtual Summit last year, which was attended by nearly 2,000 people. I launched a membership community called the Talent Development Think Tank Community as kind of a spinoff of the conference. And we now have over 100 paying active members in the Talent Development Think Tank community. We have calls on a weekly basis. And the podcast has kept on going. And I published the book in November of 2020, and have really started to pivot more into this space of career development and helping people take ownership of their careers. So started to do a lot more speaking, creating training programs from that. Along the way, I went through some major health challenges that we can get into later. But now I just do a lot of stuff in the talent development space and career development space, really focused on connecting talent development professionals with content and other people that they need to help them accelerate their career success, and also helping companies help their employees really own their careers and achieve success, improve productivity and retention and all that stuff. And by the way, most importantly, I am a husband and a father. I live in sunny Orlando, Florida. So, the hot and humid part near the Caribbean, but still pretty far from you, Julie.
Yeah, still pretty far, but still good weather, right?
Yeah, especially in the winter.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, Andy. Really appreciate that. And I think there's so many things we could tap into there about your experience and why in particular we're magnifying your voice today in terms of talent development. I think for those, I've been looking at the audience and seeing where everyone's coming in from while you've been talking. And we've got Trinidad. Hi, Jared Bess Mitchell. We've got California. Hi, Alicia. Barbados, Julianne. Hi. Germany. Washington, D.C. is in the house. Boston. And we've got two from Nebraska. So I am seeing members of the audience I haven't seen before. So
all over the place.
All over the place.
This is great.
All over the good cross section. But it speaks to one of those things that I talk about all the time, which is the diversity that exists in the HR space. And why it's important for us to think about, whether we're HR generalists, the diversity and the options that we have to move into different spaces like talent development. What piqued your interest in particular about talent development?
Well, if I'm honest, originally I got into talent development because, it was kind of accidental, right? I got a job at a consulting company I'd never heard of. It was a kind of a dream job. And then I started learning about this area of talent development. And then I said, well, if I'm going to continue my career here, I'll start this podcast and I'll start interviewing people so I can learn more and make more connections. And originally it's kind of like, well, let me see how much I can learn and help me grow my business. But, as I talked to more people and got deeper and deeper, I started to develop this real passion around it, because in talent development, and this goes for most HR leaders in general, but especially in learning and development, talent development, you have a real opportunity to make an impact on not only the business and the results, but all the people in the business. You're talking about sometimes hundreds or thousands of people who are going to work every day, and you can help make a difference from this is just a job, I get a paycheck and I go home, to this is a growth opportunity. This is helping me become a better person. I'm really enjoying my career. I feel like I'm contributing. I feel like I'm appreciated. And that can really change somebody's career and help them become a lot more successful, because you provide opportunities for them to learn and grow. And me personally, I am a big, big fan of learning and growth in general. Something I discovered about myself around the year 2016. I had been kind of drifting earlier in my career, and I talk about this in the book. Was I got into personal development, and what I discovered was that I have a strong need for growth in my life. And then when I don't have growth is when I'm not happy. When I do have growth, I feel a lot more fulfilled in my career, right? So we as talent development HR professionals have an opportunity to help other people grow in their careers, which gets me so excited. Now, I think one of the biggest problems or challenges, and I'm sure you have seen this a lot, Julie, is that the HR and L&D professionals who spend all their time helping other people and don't spend any time or invest any time in helping themselves grow, right? Investing in their own career and their own personal development. Have you seen that?
I've seen that a lot. I must admit, at some juncture in my career, I've been guilty of that myself. I'm not guilty of it now, because I understand, and I've gone through that journey of knowing what it takes in order for me to feel my best self. And I always have to be in a constant state of learning and pivoting and doing things differently. So for me, I know that that's important. But yes, I see it all the time. All the time is one of the main reasons why I became an HR for HR coach, because I want HR professionals to understand the importance of their own professional development and personal development, and not to put themselves on the back burner for the sake of company, for the sake of people, when they have their own potential that they're losing out on, being their best selves, because you're living for company when you should be living for yourself, right?
Absolutely. And I can't tell you how many times, Julie, I was running a workshop, a leadership development workshop or a business simulation, and the HR or L&D person, helped put the whole thing together. And then we get to the room and I'd be about to kick things off. And I would say, hey, you can jump in and participate if you want. And they'd be like, no, it's not for me. And they sit in the back doing emails. And I know they got stuff to do. But at the same time, if all of those participants said the same thing, you'd be frustrated that you couldn't get anybody to attend your programs. And yet here you are with an opportunity, not doing it. And I don't blame them. I've been that person too, Julie, where I'm just like, oh, I'm too busy. I'm going to go work on my email or whatever. But it happens a lot, where they either think they're too busy, it's not for them, or maybe they're not even, they don't think they're qualified to sit there with some of the other business leaders and learn along with them.
Yep. I've seen that and I've experienced it. So I know that it's very true. And I know that our audience probably feeling the same. And let me ask this question to our audience. We have a really amazing audience. They always chime in and give us good insights as well. And I just want to know, where's your development stage at in your career? Are you looking to continue to grow and develop yourself? And I'm not talking about going and doing a master's, doing your SHRM certifications or those kind of things. I'm just talking about developing and growing in your role. What things are you unlearning, relearning, reskilling in your role for you to be the best HR professional that you could possibly be, or whatever position you may be in your career right now? What are you doing to relearn and own your career? That's what we're here to talk about today. Andy, you made a very conscious decision in your life last year to share with persons what your story has been like as you develop your career, and the importance of putting yourself first in order to own your career and own your life. So I'm going to kick off with our next question, which is, what made you decide to write this book? Why now?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. As I mentioned, I had a chance to work with executives and managers at big companies all over the world, and I saw what allowed people and companies to be more successful. But I also observed a lot of people really kind of drifting in their careers, operating in reaction mode, waiting for their boss or other people to tell them what to do, not really acting with intention or owning their careers, owning their life, right? And so, I kind of kept that in my mind as I was going through. And I thought I might write a book one day, but I didn't know what it would be. And I'm not going to be the person who just puts a book out there just so I can write a book or just to support my business or whatever it may be. I wanted to be really good. And the idea hit me. Actually, I was at a conference I believe it was in November 2019. I was at a conference called Upreneur Summit in London, talking to a friend. He was interviewing me for his YouTube channel. And we started talking about all the things we're working on and the advice that I give people, especially about networking and building a personal brand and investing in learning. And it really hit me that there was an opportunity to create something to help people in the corporate space, because something had been nagging at me as I left corporate to become an entrepreneur a few years ago and follow my passion, that's what was for me. What I discovered through my own self-reflection and personal development is that I had a strong desire to be an entrepreneur, to run my own business, to be my own boss, right? That's not for everybody. And as I got into the entrepreneurial world, maybe you've heard this too, Julie, but I started hearing these people on all these podcasts and things that would say, if you don't like your job, you need to quit the 9 to 5 and go start your own business. And what I thought was, that's silly, because it works for me, but it's not for everybody. I would have all these conversations with clients who would say, wow, that's really cool that you're running your own business. I would never want to do something like that, right? Which is fine. Most people don't want to run their own business. They just want to be happy and fulfilled in their career. So I wanted to create something, a guidebook that could help people set a vision and really take ownership of their career, invest in their learning, build their network, build their brand, while doing it in the corporate space. They're still going to be working for others, but they want to feel fulfilled. They want to feel happy. They want to feel like they're contributing and they're really having the best career possible. And I knew, based on everything that I had been through, lots of mistakes, lots of different jobs, trying lots of different things, lots of conversations, lots of learning, that I had a lot to contribute in this space. And so I started writing the book early 2020. And
Yep.
it just kind of all came together during the pandemic. I actually shifted it during the pandemic because I have 2 chapters about networking, something that's been big for me for a long time.
Mm.
And originally it was all about how you need to go to conferences and networking events. And then the pandemic hit and it was like, okay, well, let's change this to being about virtual events, right? How can we network and meet people virtually? And so the book, accounts for that as well, and how we can go out and build our network virtually to help us in our careers. And so I wanted to provide something that would be valuable for a lot of people. And so far, it seems to be resonating.
It definitely is resonating. I've seen the reviews, I've had my glance. I know it really is an amazing book, and I'm so glad that you took the time to share your story. And I think a book always resonates with me more when it's someone sharing their story. And so I'm really glad that you took the opportunity to do that. And here's what I will say, like, for HR professionals, I think it's one of those things where we've come to this career, this space where we give so much. We're always in a constant state of giving. And I feel at some point we lose ourselves to our lives, being for company, as I mentioned before. And I think that one of the challenges that we experience is, how do we move our career forward? That's the question I get a lot from clients, from HR professionals who reach out to me on LinkedIn. They're at one particular stage and they want to move it further, or they're at a stage where career has blurred the lines between them and life. I hear it's hard to make the separation, and I know it's hard to make the separation now we're working from home, because home is work and work is home. What advice do you have for our professionals on the live today, in terms of how do you take that step back and start to sectionalize and prioritize your life versus your career?
Yeah. And I think they go hand in hand, right? There's a lot of people used to talk about work-life balance or separation, and I like to think of it as work-life integration, right? I mean, a lot of it is integrated. We
Yeah.
are, checking. I heard a quote once when I was at a conference a while back that I loved. from this HR leader, and I wish I could remember his name. But he said, we shop from work and we work from home. So why do we keep trying to separate the two, right? We're always doing this stuff, all these different things. I think, first of all, it starts with self-reflection. I think great leadership and big change and personal development all starts with self-reflection, which is, sitting down with some quiet space without distractions to really think about who you are. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What do you like doing? What do you not like doing? What do you enjoy about the work that you do? What do you not enjoy? What would you change if you could? What type of jobs do you want to have in the future? What do you want your career to look like? What do you want your life to look like? And are there things that you might want to change about your life? And there might be some things that you feel like you can't change, right? But there are things that you probably can change. And, it's rare that people sit down and really start to think through those things and who they are and how they're showing up in the world and how they may want that to change. And then you have that idea. It's important to set a vision for where you want to go in your career. Have an idea of what it is you want to achieve, whether it's, I want to be, a vice president or a chief HR officer in 5 or 10 years, or it's, I just want to feel like I'm happy and fulfilled while I raise a family and be home for dinner with my kids every night. Everybody has their own personal goals, but it's great to have a vision for where you want to go in your career. It could also be that I work in this one space now. I'm an HR generalist, and I would love to really get into learning and development, or vice versa, right? I want to try something different, or I'm in benefits now and I really want to get into more of the HR general side of things, or become an HR VP. It's good to think about where you want to go and then start to make a plan for how you're going to get there. And the importance of this is that, look, we know things change all the time and there's no guarantee that it's going to happen. But when you have that vision and you know where you want to go, it makes it a lot easier to make those decisions when questions come up, right? Someone offers you a new job, you possibly lose your job and you need to find something else, right? All these things happen, right? Something happened to me last year where a very prominent person in the HR community actually called me and basically offered me a role within his organization. It was kind of a dream job. And if I said the name, you'd probably know who it was. And it was hard to turn down, but because I had a clear vision of where I wanted to go with my career, I was able to make a decision pretty quickly and say, thank you very much, but this is not in line with where I'm going. If I didn't have that clear vision, I would have been agonizing over it for days or weeks, right? Like, what should I do? I don't know. So I think it's really important to have that. And then, I think your question about, how do we develop our careers better in HR too, relates to a couple of the comments we got in the chat here, especially from Jarrell, who talked about really getting involved in other aspects of the business. I think one of the challenges I see in HR is a lot of people, like in every career, operating in reaction mode, kind of just waiting for things to come their way, right? Versus being intentional and saying, I'm going to go out and do this. I'm going to go partner with finance. I'm going to go partner with these other parts of the organization and really learn about the business and find a way to add value in those areas so that HR becomes more valuable, so that I become seen as more valuable. And that builds your brand, or builds the brand of HR, and builds your personal brand as an HR professional as well. And it's going to make you more valuable to the organization and more desirable. So I think all those things can help: the self-reflection, setting a vision, and then getting more involved in the business so you know what's going on and you're seen as more of a valuable part of the company.
Yeah, definitely. I think I agree with everything that you said. And I love Gerald's comment as well. And I was also looking at Laurie's comment, because Laurie was also saying, it's not just when we think about our development, it's not just about going to class. It's about what we learn on the job, what we learn in a classroom, what we learn in life. All of those experiences come together to make us the professional that we are, and I think that that's so important as well. But I also think when we think about our competencies, a lot of times we're quick to move on to stuff, but have we really developed a competency? And I always remember one of the first time I worked in a Fortune 500, and I saw them create a competency framework for HR where they talked about what is your awareness, what is your knowledge or your mastery, and you work towards those things. And a lot of times when you talk to HR professionals, they may have knowledge of something, they may have an awareness of something, but are they a subject matter expert? No. when you think about talent development, I know I'm going to come to you and ask you stuff because you've made yourself a subject matter expert.
Mm,
And a lot of times for us as professionals, especially if you're in the generalist space, you become a jack of all trades, but as my grandmother would say, a master of none.
yeah.
And so I think a lot of times when you're thinking about making that separation or that break or trying to understand how to navigate your career, you think about what is it about HR that you like? What specific areas do you like? What don't you like? Then how do you put yourself to position towards those particular things? Do
Yeah.
you want to be seen as a subject matter expert? And what does it take to build that competency of becoming a subject matter expert?
Yeah.
Are you putting yourself out there enough? Are you sharing your advice on LinkedIn, on TikTok? I say TikTok because it's a great place to learn.
Yeah.
Uh, a lot of people laugh at me, but I'm telling you, I learn a lot from. I'm continuously learning from TikTok.
I love, I just like pause on that right there.
Okay.
Your like constant curiosity and hunger for learning serves you so well. And I try to say the same as well. It's so easy,
Mhm.
especially as you get, I'll say our age. I don't know. I'm probably older than you. I don't know, but you're not a kid anymore. It's so easy to
That's
look at
it.
TikTok and be like, oh, that's for the kids.
Yes.
I can't learn anything from them. But no, you can learn something from everybody. You can get on there and you can learn so much. And I love following people on LinkedIn and Instagram and other places and Twitter and learning everything I can from people. And that reminds me, something else you said reminded me that I wanted to add on to that conversation about, investing in your learning and in your growth, that it's important that you make time, right, for your regular learning and growth, whether it's reading books, listening to podcasts, watching
Mhm.
shows like this, or even going and getting a certification or a degree. How much time are you spending on it? Are you blocking time every day or every week to invest in your learning? And then, as you said, are you doing things to showcase that, to, set yourself up as a subject matter expert or show people that you are learning and growing in that space? Because, in a perfect world, people
Mhm.
would get promoted purely on their experience and their capabilities. But you and I both know that that's not the case, right? It comes down to your brand, which is what do
Yeah.
people think about you? It's your reputation.
Yep.
And that's why I wrote a chapter about that in my book, about the
Mhm.
importance of building your brand, whether it's through thought leadership, posting on LinkedIn,
Yep.
showcasing your knowledge at work. It becomes really important because that impacts your ability to move up in the world. I actually have a question for you on that,
Oh,
Julie. Love to get into these, like, you know,
you're flipping the script on
I'm
me
flipping,
already,
I'm
Andy.
flipping the script. Well, I talk about this stuff a lot, and it's easy for me to say, like, go out and build your brand. And I think I come at it from a perspective of, frankly, straight white man, right, who's in a business world that's kind of run by people like me. Does it become even more important as a person of color or someone from an underrepresented group to think about how you're building your brand and your thought leadership and how you show up in the world?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been building my content on LinkedIn. Let's say LinkedIn, for example, since 2012. Right?
Mm,
It's 2020, 2021. And I'm now starting to see results from building my brand on LinkedIn and how I show up. It's especially important, especially in the HR space. Um, as you think about how leadership and what leadership thinks about HR professionals. And like you, I'm now at this stage where I get messages in my LinkedIn all the time about, we want to work, we want you to work for this company. This
nice.
offer is on the table. What do you think about it? Would you?
Yeah.
And I'm being in a space where I say, no, this is, I really appreciate it. I'm actually I get very embarrassed by it. Um, but it's my hard work, like putting myself out there and saying to people, these are the things that I'm curious about. These are the things that I know, and these are the things that I think other people should know. It's really important to put yourself out there. We don't do it that much
Yeah.
as a minority, but
Mm,
especially I feel we don't do it as much in the Caribbean. So, for
mm.
example, I see my very good friend, and I think our very good friend, Ricklin Woods,
Oh, yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
here. Hi,
Hi,
Ricklin.
hi, Ricklin.
Ricklin is absolutely amazing at marketing herself on LinkedIn and sharing her stories and so on. And there are a lot of other amazing people on LinkedIn of color who do that. Madison Butler, who is now, she could
She's a
be very
firecracker on
controversial
LinkedIn.
to
Yeah.
a lot of people, but Madison knows how to put herself out there
Yeah.
and share her experiences. She now has a book deal.
Ooh.
And she's doing amazing things in the DEI space. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
call it like lover or hater.
Shaking things up.
Definitely shaking things up. And so when you think about persons in the HR space that are doing that, there aren't that many of us that look like me that are doing that. And there aren't that many of us that look like me that live in the Caribbean that are doing that.
True.
And so for me, the impetus is even more upon me to put myself out there, share my knowledge, share my expertise, demystify how people feel about HR, and what we bring to the table and what is possible.
Yeah.
And to show people this is what is possible if you put in the time and you put in the effort and the years, because there's no quick and easy way to be successful on social media. There just isn't. It's all hard work.
For a few people, right? But it's not. There's a couple. I'm sorry to interrupt you. There's a couple of things that you said there that I want to make sure we reiterate for people listening. One was you said you started like really working at it in 2012. It's been like 9 years of hard work. I think people really need to hear that because it's so important. It's so easy to just look at people with a ton of followers on LinkedIn and be like, oh, I put a couple things up. Nobody engaged with my post. Why can't I be like them? It takes a lot of work and a lot of time. And number two, the payoff is you're getting these offers. You mentioned Madison Butler got a book deal. Like she wasn't, I don't know everything about her situation, but if she just put her head down and was just doing her job at work, I don't think that book deal was going to come her way. It came because she's been putting sometimes controversial stuff, but just a lot of great content out on LinkedIn. And by the way, I look at her content, her posts all the time. For me, it's interesting, especially as a white man, getting to see her perspective on, what it means to be a queer Black female, as a leader in the working world. And I get to like learn from, that's why I love social media. I get to learn from all these different people with different perspectives, right? And understand what's going on.
Absolutely. And yes, Ricklin, I didn't mean to say marketing. I did mean, yes, we all show up in our own, authenticity to our communities. Yes, that's what you do. And you do it so well. And I think that's what we all try to do, right? As HR professionals. And that's why I share my story of, my mental health. That's why I share my stories of my struggle in the corporate space. And because it's all relatable, it's all true, and it's all what people need to know in order to be able to understand what it's really like to be in HR and be an HR professional and be a woman in HR and be a woman of color in HR. And I could dissect it so much further, but it's really important to show up and be yourself in these spaces. For too long, we haven't done that. And like I said, there aren't many people who live in the Caribbean like me who do this. And I want to share what's possible and meet more people. Hi, Janice. And meet more people. Janice actually, I'm so glad that Janice is here. Janice is actually one of my mentors. Absolutely amazing leader, former CEO of a telecommunications company, first Black female CEO of a telecommunications company in the Caribbean.
Nice.
Absolutely amazing woman. And I've learned so much from her. But it's having people in your space like that, just like Janice, and like Ricklin, and like Madison and so on, that show up, be themselves, and represent and share their experiences. And that's why I feel like it's so important for us to recognize the importance of taking control of our careers, recognizing that building a career for those of us who want to build it in an organization is fine. For those of us who want to build a career creating our own brand, like Ricklin is doing, like I am doing, like Janice is doing, that these things are just as important. But it takes time. We got to put in the work. And to your point before, about building that know, like, and trust factor. We talk about that a lot in marketing. I think Jared Best Mitchell will be very proud of me here. The know, like, and trust factor is very, very important in HR. A lot of times, if you're working in an organization and you're saying, I can't get the people to trust me, I don't, the people to like me. Are you taking that time to step away from your desk and get to know the people and understand who they are, what they do in the organization, and what that does to contribute to how you create a great people strategy, or retain people, or how you create succession plans? All of those things are very important. And what drives those people, and where do they see themselves a couple months from now in the organization? Because we can't talk years anymore. COVID has taught us that life is too short to even think about talking in years anymore, and all of those things are pivotal and very, very important. So yes, I think it's really important for us as women of color to show up in these spaces, be intentional, be authentic, and get our points across and win. Can't happen any other way.
Yeah. And I love that you're talking about building your network too.
Oh, yeah.
Things move so fast, right? And things are changing all the time. You never know what's going to come next. And in the middle section of my book is all about preparing for the future. We talked about building a personal brand. The other big part of it, and we talked about learning, the other big part of it is building your network. And are you building a network? Are you connecting with people doing the things that you want to do? Because they may be able to help you down the line when you need it. And hopefully you're spending time helping them. And I've seen how you've built that network through the show and all the stuff you're doing. And I mean, you and I connected on LinkedIn, right? I remember we talked on Zoom, I don't know when it was, a couple of years ago. And then we've had chats on Clubhouse, and we're doing this. And we continue to talk to a lot of people, and that builds the network. Absolutely. And you never know what's going to come from that.
You never know what is going to come from it. We've collaborated quite a bit over the last 2 years, and it's been really amazing to kind of develop our friendship and grow. And like I said, I've learned a lot from you, and I followed you for a very long time. So before I even reached out. So thank you so much for, engaging with me, being a part of my community, sharing your insights and your knowledge. I really appreciate it. I gotta ask you, tell these beautiful people who are watching, who will be watching on the replay, where they can access your book.
Oh, well, first of all, my pleasure to, be part of your community and be on this show talking with you. I love everything that you're doing, Julie. I always love collaborating with you. Clubhouse, the show, LinkedIn, whatever it may be, supporting your book. I know I already left a review on there and posted about it. I'll be doing that again because people need, if you're in HR, I hope people get my book, but if you're in HR, you need to get Julie's book. You talked about the importance of stories, and stories are so important. It's how we really learn. It's how we, I love learning from people's experiences more than just like a lecture of like, hey, here's how to do it. So I include a lot of stories in my book. You have just a treasure trove of stories in your book, and it's like real life. Like, this is what happened to me. This is how you handle it. So I highly recommend you get Julie's book, Confessions of an HR Pro. Both of our books are available on Amazon. Mine's on Amazon everywhere. Interesting story. I run this talent development community, and there's a guy who joined, he's not in Barbados, but he's in an island close to you. I can't remember which one it was.
Oh, did I go through all the islands? Does everyone to know how educational I am about all the islands?
I need to know. Okay. So I'm going to look this up in a second. But anyway, he's like, I got your book. I read it. And I was like, how did you get my book? Do you get Amazon down there? And he's like, no, we don't. I ordered it to someplace in Miami, and then they shipped it to me. And I'm like, wow, that is like dedication.
That's how we have to order our books. Yeah.
Oh, man.
You don't get direct. I think Amazon does deliver direct some, but not all.
Yeah.
I think it really depends. But yeah, we have to jump through a lot of hoops in the Caribbean to get stuff.
Well, here's the deal. If you want my book, first of all, it's available on Amazon. If you're in a country with Amazon, US, Europe, Australia, Japan, you can just get the book on Amazon. It's the easiest way to go. But I also have signed books available on my website, ownyourcareerownyourlife.com. And if you're in an island and you don't get Amazon direct anyway, you can order it direct from me, and I'll be happy to go to the post office and send you a signed copy. It'll be a little extra for shipping, obviously, but if you're in the islands, I'm sure you're used to that. So no big deal. So that's all available there. And then the other thing I would add too is I have And of course, it's on Kindle, which might be
Yes,
easier if you're in the islands.
absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
and I have your book on my Kindle, Julie. But
Awesome.
what was I going to? So the other thing is, I have a lot of free resources on that website as well, including
Yes.
the 5 steps to owning your career and the top 5 most common career mistakes that people make. I surveyed my network. I asked everybody, what's the biggest career mistake you've made? I asked a lot of my podcast guests, and I put it together in a report so that people can avoid making these mistakes. And you can get those by going to ownyourcareerownyourlife.com/bonus. Ownyourcareerownyourlife.com/bonus. You can get the book there. You can get all the free resources. If you don't want to read the book, that's fine. But just do some, take some action, and hopefully
Absolutely.
do some things to go own your career.
Yeah, that's a lot of great resources that you have there, Andy. Thank you so much. I will put the links in the comments after the live. So if you tap that, you'll be able to find them there. But if you're following Andy on LinkedIn, you'll find them right there in his bio. So go check out Andy and you'll find them there as well. Andy, we got to get a little serious.
Okay, let's get serious.
So during last year, you were very open on social media about your fight with cancer. You're going through chemo and so on. Just share a little bit with us about that journey, and especially in terms of being an entrepreneur, being in the talent development space, but being an entrepreneur in HR, and what that journey was like for you.
Yeah, well, thanks for bringing that up, Julie. I don't mind telling the story. You're right. I did share a lot of it on social media. So last fall, I was working on getting the book finished and started experiencing a lot of pain and discomfort in my abdomen. And I went and got tested, found out I had a lump on my testicle, and it turned out to be testicular cancer. And 2 days after I published this book in November, I had surgery to remove my left testicle, and I was in bed for a few days. And then I went back to get tested, and the hope was that it was contained in that lump and testicle was removed, and that would be it for the cancer, which has been the case because I posted on social media. I've connected with a lot of men who have been through this, and people in general who have been through cancer, men and women. And a lot of people got lucky, and like that, lucky, that was it. And then they were moved on. But test came back and I found out that the cancer had spread to my stomach and my neck, and I had enlarged lymph nodes in both areas. And I'm a bit of a naturalist. I try to do things as naturally as possible. I'm big into health and fitness. And so I first of all, I dove in, we're talking about learning, did a ton of research on cancer, on health, on nutrition. I read a bunch of books. I interviewed people, learned everything I could. And I tried to take a natural approach to solving this issue with my body. But the pain became so terrible in January that I finally relented. I went to the hospital and I started chemotherapy. And I did chemo for a couple months, 2 cycles of chemo back in January, February, March, essentially, of this year. And I won't lie, it's the most awful thing I've ever done in my life. I don't recommend it to anyone, but if you got to do it, you got to do it. But along the way, I made a lot of other changes. There's a lot of other things because I wasn't just going to rely on the doctors or the chemo or whatever they were suggesting. I really wanted to take the approach that I'm going to own this, right? I say I'm going to own my career and own my life. I'm going to own my health too, which means I take full responsibility for everything going on in my life, including this cancer, right? I didn't choose it. I don't know if it's as a result of some actions I took or if it's just bad luck, but I'm going to own it, right? And I'm going to take responsibility and do whatever I can. And so I changed my diet. I started taking a lot of supplements. I started getting vitamin C injections. I started doing all kinds of things to make sure that it wasn't just the chemo that I was using to beat this cancer. And I also did a lot of journaling and sharing along the way. And, I know you wanted to ask about, how to get through something like this. We can get to that. But by the end of April, I had gone through a second cycle of chemo, and scans came back showing that most of it was taken care of. At that point, doctors recommended a third cycle, and I ended up turning it down. And it's been about 3 months, and I have been feeling great. Life is mostly back to normal. I lost all my hair. The hair has come back.
I remember. I'm like,
yeah, exactly. Kind of back to almost like full force here, which is kind of cool. And you can go back and look at all my interviews over time and see like no hair's coming back. So it's kind of funny, being on social media. But there were a lot of challenging days throughout all that. And, to your question, what kept me going through it all? And I just happened to coincidentally post about it this week on
Uh-huh.
LinkedIn.
Yep.
But two big things. Number one was remembering the nature of impermanence. Through a lot of meditation and mindfulness over the years, I've learned about this nature of impermanence, this idea that things don't last forever. And there was a phrase that I heard from my friend Lauren Davis, who I think actually has this tattooed on her arm. And
Okay.
the phrase is, "This is how it is right now," which means that no matter, you are going through a situation that maybe you didn't choose it, maybe you don't like it, but
Yep.
it's probably not going to last forever. This is how it is right now. So I had these days where I just felt absolutely awful and I
Yeah.
didn't want to do anything. And there's that thought that creeps up. Is this going to last? Is it always going to be like this? And I have to remind myself, it's not. I'm going to
No.
get through this, right? One day it's going to be
Exactly.
fine again. And you can take this for a bad day at work, a bad an argument with in a relationship, whatever it
Yeah.
may be, right? This is how it is right now. Then the second thing was gratitude. Every day I would take out a journal, no matter how bad things were, no matter how bad I felt. Every single day I would meditate for 10 minutes and I would take out a journal and write down my gratitude. And I would write down my gratitude for all the things I have in my life, my wife, my kids. My mother was helpful in taking care of me, all my friends who reached out, the great medical care that I got, everything going on. We always have so many things we can be grateful for. And I got to a point where I was writing down that I was grateful for this cancer experience. And I think I convinced myself that, this was a blessing and this was something to be grateful for. And
Uh-huh.
it really helped me get through it. And I find that helps me get through almost any challenge, right? And so I'm always big
Yeah.
on recommending that to people, is writing that down, that gratitude. And something else I posted about recently that's in my book and that's in the training program I'm creating now is this shift in mindset to believe that everything in life happens for you and not to you.
That's
And so
it.
I had to keep reminding myself that this is happening for me. I don't know what the reason is yet, but there is a reason this is happening, and it's happening for me, and it's a blessing, and I'm going to get through it. And what I've learned from it is that it's given me the opportunity to tell stories like this that can hopefully help and inspire others. And since then, I've had a lot of people reach out to me who are going through cancer, or their friends or spouse are going through cancer, and
Yeah.
ask questions. And I get to give advice and just say, this is what I've learned. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. I don't know your situation, but this is what I've learned.
Yes.
Hopefully this can help you, right?
Yep.
And then go out and do your own research, of course, and take ownership of your own health and your own career. And again, everybody's situation is different. And I'm very lucky, by the way. I will completely acknowledge testicular cancer is one of the most treatable cancers out there. There are much worse diseases and cancers to fight through. But it was no doubt a tough experience. And I wanted to share that journey because I know there was an opportunity not only to give people insight into what that experience is like, but to how I was getting through it. And hopefully that can help other people get through their challenging times.
Absolutely. I know that it's so hard when you're going through a life altering moment to think in that moment that that's all it is, right? It consumes you. Having that mentality of this is how it is right now, I think is so important. Otherwise, it could cripple you, right?
Yeah.
I see Jessica Lara is sharing her experience in the comments. I'm not going to bring it up on the screen.
Yeah.
Um,
I saw that, but I wanted to say for Jessica
yeah,
that, first of all, good luck. And, I hope that things are not that bad. You're getting tests done. It's so easy to really start worrying in those situations. And I can't just tell you, don't worry, right? It's not easy to turn that off. But I like to remind people and remind myself all the time that worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't really change anything. So, you got to kind of just accept what comes your way and then do whatever you can to take ownership of your health and fight that, whatever it is, right? So don't just rely on doctors, but do your research and do whatever you can to improve your health.
definitely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Jessica, yes, please remember that you are loved. We send you light, we send you hope, and I'm sure that everything is going to work out. As we
Yeah,
write books, like I know for me, it's very surreal to say, okay, I wrote a book, I'm an author.
yeah, you are.
Um, but I always remember seeing a quote that says, this is just a chapter in your book. It's not the entire book that is your life.
Mm,
which is kind of like just what you said, this is how it is right now.
Yep.
And I think that this is the side that I always want to talk about, because I think as professionals, and especially in our space where we're constantly giving to people, how were you able to continue to be in a space of giving? Because you were sharing your story on LinkedIn, but I'm sure you were still doing your work the best that you could. Like, how did you maintain a space of, okay, I still need to be in a space and have an attitude of giving? I guess gratitude helps with that, but then on the days when you were feeling your suckiest and you still had to give, how did you do that?
Well, a couple of things on that. And I just remembered I didn't answer your question earlier about going through that experience as an entrepreneur. I absolutely love being an entrepreneur, running my own business. I never want to go back. That's just me. But
I'm with you.
Right.
I'm with you.
This is my personality, right? This is me. But there were definitely moments where I was like, God, it would be nice to have a job with a salary and some benefits right now, because I wasn't really able to work for about 3 months. I was kind of on the couch off and on. I'm very lucky. The timing was very lucky. Number one, because of COVID, I got some extra stimulus checks from the government last year, right? And that kind of helped get me going. I've also built up a business that has a little bit of recurring revenue from the membership community that I built, and everybody stepped up and was very supportive there. And they were trying to go bring in new members to help support the group. And so that was really cool, really helpful. I also have an amazing team. I have an assistant, Stephanie, who helped keep everything running with my business, both during that cancer time. And I also just took a 5-week vacation, and she kept everything running during that time as well. So that's really nice to have as well. And these are luxuries that other people don't have. But then, the flip good side of that, of running your own business, is that I don't have to worry about coming back and like, am I going to lose my job because I got cancer? Like, no, I can always go out and go find more clients and start a new business, right? And so there's always pros and cons, right? There's pluses and minuses. But I'm glad for being able to get through it, and then for being able to run my own business and also be able to share that story. And to your question about giving, I don't know how much I was still giving during that time. And I think it's in my nature.
You were still giving a lot, my friend. You were. You absolutely were. I remember watching your show a couple of times, and like, Andy's not here, someone else would be hosting it. I'd be like, now that's a pro.
Yeah.
That I want to be just like Andy when I grow up.
Yeah. Well, you keep it going. I mean, I think we had some older content that we were able to kind of repurpose and put out there. And I'd record something every now and then when I was feeling better, and share a lot on social media because I wanted to give to others. But I also, this is something I learned, and I'm big on pushing myself out of my comfort zone, right? Doing new things. And one of the things that I had to challenge myself with was to not to give more, but to receive, and to let people help me. Because I've always been big on giving and helping others.
That's going to be hard, like as a white male.
Yeah. Hey, don't you generalize about white men and entrepreneurs. But no, there's an ego factor,
men
right?
In general, right?
Yeah, men, exactly. I don't think it's white men. I think it's just men that have a hard time getting help. So I learned about myself that as much as I love helping others, I do have a hard time accepting help. And there's a moment that sticks in my mind that for some reason, this is my lesson learned about it. I was at the airport with my family. We're going through, I've got a wife and 2 young kids. And so I'm like carrying everybody's bags, stumbling across this road. And this woman looks over and says, "Can I please help you? And then she said, I have nothing else to do. My flight's not for 3 hours. And I was like, nope, I got this. And I'm like trying to care. And my wife was like, why don't you just let her help us? And I've for some reason, that's stuck in my mind. Like, why don't I just let people help me? And what I've realized is that I love helping other people. You love helping other people. It makes you feel good to help people. And when we don't let people help us, it actually robs them of a good feeling. You're being selfish when you're not letting people help. So I've gone through kind of this metamorphosis to change. And when people started reaching out and offering to help me, instead of following my instinct, which was to react and say, no, I'm fine, I got this on my own, I started saying, yes, you can help me. Yes, you want to send me dinner. Yes, you want to send me money. Yes, you want to do this for me. My friend Bennett offered to take over my podcast and record a couple interviews. And, lots of people offer to take over running meetings inside the community that I run and all kinds of things. And I just started saying yes, instead of saying no. And it was really nice to get help from so many people. And, it's funny, like to your question about giving, like I said, I love helping other people. So it's almost like does people a favor when you let them help you. So
Yeah.
if you are someone like me who typically doesn't like to accept help, remember that when you don't, you are actually denying people that good feeling of being able to help you, because we all like helping other people. We all like being generous. And so that was a big change I had to make. And I wanted to keep giving and keep sharing on social media, etc. But I also accepted a lot of help from people as well.
Awesome. That's a big one, because I think, like I said, it's very hard to accept help when you're always in the space of giving. Um, it's almost hard to recognize that people want to be good to you,
Mm,
you know? So I'm glad that you were able to learn that, and that
yeah.
going forward, sick or well,
Yeah.
people get offer you help. Andy, what are you gonna do?
I'm going to say yes.
Gonna say yes.
Bring it. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Let Final comments, because I can't believe we are on 5 minutes to the top of the hour. What are your final comments, recommendations to our audience who have joined us today for this most inspirational conversation?
Well,
What do you have to say?
yeah. So, final comments. Nobody cares more about your career or your life than you do, right? I mean, hopefully, you have a manager, a really great manager who cares about you. If your mom is around, she probably cares a lot about you, right? Your parents, your grandparents, your siblings, whatever it may be. But really, nobody cares about your career more than you do. So, you've got to be the one to take ownership and take responsibility, set that vision, set those goals, and take action. And it's the same with your health as well. Like to my cancer story and Jessica's comments earlier, hopefully you have a great doctor who cares about you, but they don't really care about your overall health as much as you do. So you've got to take responsibility, do your research, figure out where you want to go, whether it's your career, your life, your health. Set some goals, and remember that a goal without a plan is really just a wish. So once you set your goals, tell somebody, make a plan, and start taking action, because we only get one life, right? We might have multiple careers, but one life. So start taking action towards that, right? Don't let fear hold you back. Take action. And even if it doesn't work out, that's okay. With a growth mindset, we didn't even talk about mindset. That could be a whole nother show, right? But with growth
Absolutely.
mindset, as long as you're learning, you're growing, and you're getting better, and you'll be glad that you tried to do those things, you gave it a shot, and you followed your dreams.
With that said, can you drop your mic from that end? I can't drop mine. Boom. Andy Storch, thank you so much for your time, your energy, your love, your compassion. You are an awesome human being, my friend, and I'm so glad to know you.
Thank
Thank you
you,
for
Julie.
being here today. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad you said love. Love is my number one value. I've loved this experience. I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate all you do for the HR community.
Thank
For
you.
everybody watching, make sure you get Julie's book, follow Julie, and hope to talk to you again soon.
Yes. And guys, make sure you go get Own Your Career, Own Your Life. Andy has told you where you can go find it. Go check him out. Check out his community. He has an amazing community, great people. If you're looking to expand your HR community, I highly recommend checking out Andy and his community for sure. But we are at the end of today's episode of Magnifying HR Voices, everyone. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you know where to find me. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I live here, and you'll always find me here. You can send me an email, whatever you want. Just reach out if you want to be a part of this conversation. If you want me to magnify your voice, I am happy to do that as well. Next week is going to be a very interesting conversation again. So we've been talking a lot and hearing a lot about the Great Resignation, right, Andy? So what
Oh yeah,
happened?
lots.
Yeah, a lot about the Great Resignation. And I have been advocating for the last couple months, as we talk about the Great Resignation, recognizing that when your top talent leaves the organization, it sends off bells. What bells does it send off for you when HR is leaving the organization without a plan B? It's not like we're moving on to go to another job. What are we doing? So next week, I'm going to be having that conversation with Angela Shaw, who actually recently shared her experience on LinkedIn about leaving her job without a plan B, being in HR. She's doing great stuff, but Anne now has a new job. But she's going to share her story with us next week. How and what happens when HR resigns without a plan B is coming your way next week. So check us out then. Thank you so much for joining the conversation today. And from Andy and us, we will see you another time next week, Wednesday, same time, same channel. You know where to find me. So check us out then. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Julie.